for Simchas Torah, and everything was going great. And in the morning, like it's 6 in the morning, I heard these booms. They were loud. I thought to myself, it must be the quarries not so far away from me that I must be working. I was like, it's Shabbat. No, they don't usually work. I don't know. Anyway, I had made myself a cup of tea, went outside with my friends, and we were about to go to shul. We actually prayed Chabad, which is downstairs from my house. And suddenly we hear the siren. The minute we heard the siren, it was clear that something was up. We understood that the booms were not just booms. And then it started dawning. Then at about 10 o'clock, I went down to shul. And at shul, there was a police officer who was also in police intelligence, an Arabic speaker. And he was just laying it all out for us on the phone. The phones were already out. We knew there was an emergency. So we already like switched gears and understood that things were phone-like, meaning to say not Shabbat-like. And that's it. And information started coming in. I knew a lot by 10 a.m. Litzari, to my dismay, looking back at it, I only wish I knew that the fight was still on.
Right.
Had I known that, the davening, the prayer would have been different. I feel bad that we prayed with sadness, but we would have prayed even harder had we known that the fight was still very much on at that very moment. So I'm a little bit, I'm a little upset about that. But that's what it was, And then we started understanding the colossal ramifications, the how big it was. It took, of course, a few days to really see the picture, and the picture is still really coming out, and the ripples are going to be felt for a long, long time. But that's what October 7th, Simchas Torah this year was.
Wow. It's interesting because you heard the booms, but didn't really understand how bad it was or how huge it was, having lived in Israel for so many years, because it seemed to be a peaceful time where it's not the first thing that you're thinking about, which is not a bad thing because Israel was, has not been under attack in this way since for a long time. But could you give us some background? How did you end up in Israel? Why did you go put yourself in the line of danger by choice with your family? Could you give us a little bit of background? Tell us about that.
I will do that right now. I just want to make one point too, which is to say there was a peaceful time is a little not accurate, because you have to remember that in fact 35 people had been murdered by jihadism in Israel in this year prior to this event. So we were already on guard, and we knew that things were bad. We knew that the jihadist wave was hitting us, and it was considered one of the worst years before the October 7th attacks.
Right.
So it was already. It's not like there wasn't tension. There was a lot of tension, but you're right. We didn't expect maybe this level of a strike. I was born in. I have a kind of a complex and long history. My parents are Russian Jews, so I'm a Russian speaker, actually. My parents...
Ada's parents are Russian.
Yeah.
And
cool.
my grandmother was Russian.
That's right. Chabad is Russian, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So I was born, actually, in Haifa, Israel. My parents moved from the Soviet Union in 72 to Israel, and they were not religious. And
where are they from? Which
Leningrad, St. Petersburg.
Oh, my grandmother was from Leningrad.
And
wow,
I got
must have known each other.
I actually went to see one time with my mom, where the Alter Rebbe was in prison, that whole story. By the way, he was in prison for supporting Eretz Yisrael. People kind of say it differently sometimes, but the answer is that he was actually supporting Eretz Yisrael. Was a very important thing for the founding rabbi of the Lubavitch dynasty, the support of Eretz Yisrael. He made that into a big thing. In any case, and he sat in prison for that. My parents came out in 72. I was born in Israel. I was actually born the day that the Entebbe plane was hijacked.
No way. That exact day?
That day, yeah. And when the plane was hijacked, so that
What
I think
date was that?
26th of June, 1976, and the rescue was 7 days later. But in any case,
We should see such a rescue.
Amen. That was a great rescue, and you have to remember that the story of Entebbe, or Miftzah Yonatan, or the different names that it has, was coming after the great pain of the Yom Kippur War, and there had been some depression in the land, and that moment was a relighting, a kind of Hanukkah moment in Israel. In any case, I was born there. When I was 8, my parents decided to move to America, and we moved to Wayne, New Jersey. Wayne, New Jersey, a nice, indescript, quiet,
Right.
good town in America. I never felt one days of anti-Semitism.
Wow.
Not one time. Just a nice American town in New Jersey. When I was 17, though, my parents started sending me to Jewish school, and that changed our whole family makeup. We became more Jewish, more observant, more practicing. And then at the age of 17, I said, I've always wanted to go back and serve in the army. And Hashem made it such that it was time for me to leave high school and time to get back to Eretz Yisrael. And that's what I did. And Hashem really helped me. And he sent me to a yeshiva that I had never really, I didn't know this world. I went to a Hesder yeshiva. This happened, it's hard to explain, but basically my Rabbi Lukens in Fresh Yeshiva High School sent me to this yeshiva. And it's a really high level, very Rambam oriented Hesder yeshiva, considered one of the it's like a Yale type school. If Gush Etzion is like the Harvard, then this is like the Yale. And I went to this yeshiva, and then I stayed with the yeshiva and went to the Paratroopers. In the Paratroopers, and that's something that I always wanted to do, and I wanted to be a Paratrooper. And so that was a great zchut. It was a great merit to be a Paratrooper with my yeshiva. I got injured in Lebanon, and by a roadside bomb from the folks at Hezbollah that we know to this very day. That was 20 years ago. And
do you still have effects from that today?
No, I have a little scar, thank God, but it broke my shoulder blade, and it could have been much worse, but I was spared. And I went actually back to America after that. And I was in America for another 7 years at Yeshiva University and at Cardozo Law School. That's where I met my beloved Malka, and that's where we decided to get married. We were both. Now I'm going to use a term that is sometimes understood differently by different peoples. We were both Zionist. What we mean by that is not secular Zionism that's anti-religious. What we mean by that is what used to be called in the Second Temple period, Shivat Zion, the return to Zion, the ingathering. Mm-hmm. And so we were involved in that. Actually, Malka was actually pro-Israel as opposed to Zionist. I was Zionist. She was pro-Israel, i.e. an American Jew supported Israel. But I convinced her. I told her, if you want to be with me, then I'm moving to Israel. That's where I'm going. And she said, okay. And so we moved to Israel. We lived in Beit El, sometimes known as Beis Kel, right? Mm-hmm. Beit El, and that's in southern Samaria. That's where.
And what made you move there?
The company that you all read, the news organization called Arutz Sheva, Israel National News.
Yeah,
I got a job there.
Oh,
at a law school. So and there was one simple demand: move to Beit El.
Right.
I'm like, what? What's Beit El? I never even heard it. Like, I don't know. I read it in the Torah. I don't know where that is, but it's a town.
Right.
It's a beautiful, beautiful town. Really gorgeous town and a very spiritual town.
Well, it's a holy place.
It is. It really is. And it is to this very. It's a holy place.
What happened on Beit Kel? That is where.
That's the dream of the ladder. That's this week's Torah portion.
Yes, it's this week's Torah portion. That's right.
That's Vayetze. That's
Vayetze.
Yes,
Yaakov's dream with the ladder.
The dream of the ladder, which I think is, by the way, an iconic image. And that one that, you have beautiful stuff in the house. I always think that there should be the image of the ladder. It's a very Jewish image. Connection between heaven and earth, and also what a Jew is supposed to be. Feet on the ground, head in the sky. Okay? We're grounded with great ideas. Grounded in how to get things done in this world, but with high ideas, high-minded ideas. In that case, we moved to Beit El. Then later on, we lived on the Mount of Olives for 7 years. And now we moved down to Gush Etzion, which is Judea, because of my work in Hebron, which is nearby.
So
that's the stuff.
Right. So you moved there because of your job, and then did you end up becoming passionate about being in the settlements?
It's very good. It's a very interesting thing. My first passion when I was living in New York City was Aliyah. I was trying to help American Jews think about Aliyah. So we made an organization. It was called Kumah. It is called Kumah. And in English, it was called Arise, Americans Return to Zion. That was like the first passion. And then when we got to Beit El, we started becoming infused with the fight for Jewish rights in Judea and Samaria. And that was not as clear to me in America. And it's harder to understand. It's a more technical Israeli thing. But I started understanding the issues. And I started understanding the pressure that Israel was under to relinquish and surrender land to the enemy. and we started understanding how important it was to fight for Jewish rights in Judea and Samaria. Now, we had gotten married. I skipped a little point. We got married in Hebron in 2002.
Oh, that's so nice. When I was just there, I saw a wedding happening. And
Right. Well, at the time, nobody was getting married there because there was an intifada. And when the intifada was still raging, we decided to get married there. It was a big deal. And in the end, my people in Hebron credited me with restarting the tradition of Jewish weddings at the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs.
Oh, wow.
And it's still quite a thing. We have quite an industry of people getting married in the summer outside of the tomb.
I was there in the summer, and I saw outside a whole chuppah.
We have a chuppah, we have a whole system worked out, and people do it. And people come from all over Israel and the world to get married at Marat Machpelah because you're getting married with your Bubby and Zaidi, with your grandparents, with the founders of the peoplehood. That's what it's about. It also goes back to an issue that's very dear to my heart, which is it's mothers and fathers. Marat Machpelah is not the tomb of the patriarchs. We gotta erase that business. It's tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs. That's its unique selling point. There's no other place in the world that has mothers and fathers honored and buried together like that. So we got married there. Around after Arutz Sheva, Hashem made it that back to Hebron. Maybe the merit of getting married there back in 2002 helped me find a job in Hebron, and I am today the spokesman of this amazing community.
Are you afraid ever, or do you have any fear, or does your family ever have fear?
Over the years living there.
All right. So now, before I answer that, technically, I'll answer that philosophically. I don't use that word. I try not to use that word.
The word fear?
Fear. I try not to use it with regarding to anything that we experience. It's a philosophical, it's a little war that I have, which is I don't want to give them the fear because that's exactly what they want. They want to make us afraid. Let's make a definition. What is terrorism? Terrorism is the broadcasting of fear. They want to spread fear. They want to seem scary. They want to make you afraid to come to Eretz Yisrael. They want to make you afraid to come to Hebron. That is their modus operandi. That is what they want to achieve. Fear. And I deny them that. And I go to the point of not even using that word. So I could use the word tactical situation. I could even say it's dangerous because that's an objective, situation out there. But I try not to say I'm afraid, we're afraid. And I don't even let my kids say that. We just don't use that word.
And how do your kids react?
My kids are tough, but that doesn't mean there aren't situations that are tactical and you have to be quite aware. There's bad guys out there.
So do you have that fear not for them, but for your kids?
I don't use that word.
Right. So it's just not on your
Let's
radar.
substitute it.
I just don't use that word.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I don't act defensively sometimes and tactically and with awareness. You see, I'm dancing around it because
that's great. And
yeah.
I think that's a great. I like the tactic. But do you feel that everyone around you has that same vision as you, or that same feeling as you?
So there's, contrary to the word fear, the other side of that is toughness.
Right.
We have an ethos of being tough. That's an ethos in our day-to-day life.
Right.
And that replaces that. Like when you practice it's not something that comes naturally. It's not a natural occurring thing. It's
like you wouldn't call yourself a tough person.
It's something you have to work on.
Right.
You could be born less and more with it, but anybody will tell you. Any person, any mom having children, any businessman doing work, it's something you learn. You learn to be tough. You develop it. You have to work on it constantly.
Yeah, but you do see some people are tougher than others.
I see all kinds of tough people, and I think Jews are generally tough. Yeah, then it's a tough nation, and if it's not tough in one way, it's tough in another way. And I do also fundraising, so I meet with a lot of wealthy people. They're all tough. They're all people who did something in life.
Right.
I really do have a lot of respect for people, but a toughness that you were talking about right now is something to develop.
Right. And how did you develop it?
I don't know. It all comes together. My parents are Russian Jews. They were refuseniks, so they had to fight the KGB and stuff. And then, I was born, as I said, on the Entebbe thing. I think something.
There was something in the air.
Something in the air, and then moving to America and just overcoming that challenge. Just you grow up with that. I don't know. My parents sent me to martial arts, which I very much recommend. I think that actually does something. When you're a kid and you are raised in karate, kung fu, taekwondo, it doesn't matter. That hardens you. That it's a discipline. It's a discipline. Torah is a discipline, but it's important to discipline the kids in Torah, not to just say it's time to learn Torah. It's like there's a discipline, and we call it amal. Like it's got to be a discipline. I'm working on that with my kids these days, with myself as well. So
martial arts thing. I saw somewhere it said a warrior is someone who's always prepared for battle with no plan to fight.
Right.
It's like if you have the strength, then maybe fear doesn't have to be in the picture because you're prepared. It's just a tact. I kind of like that.
That's a great phrase.
I was more in like to feel the fear, do it anyway, but you're kind of like you've taken it one step ahead. It's like, no, let's just take fear out of the picture and just be, tactical and just do what we need to do.
Right.
Easier said than done.
Fear.
Right.
Well, I can't say you can't feel it, but you have to know what it is. You have to recognize it, and then you have to, there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Right.
You have to. So,
I was just going to say.
But I think you said something that's very important, which I was referring to in the martial arts. The word warrior. It's a question if a child, a girl or boy, wakes up and lives with that consciousness. You're a warrior. Even the word. Think about that word. It's a word that we kind of use. Warrior. I'm ready for battle. In Chabad, I like very much Tzivos Hashem. I like that. You're in the army, and Chabad has got that. That's one of the themes in the Chabad psychology, which is like we're fighters out there, we're soldiers out there. So you put that into a child's mind. I think that the martial arts does that. The word martial means warlike, ability to do that. And so you grow up with that. Then of course they send you to the paratroopers. That does a lot.
Yeah.
To this day, I have some even bad habits. For example, I eat too fast. I'm one of these people that eats too fast. That came from the paratroopers. We ate quietly. They didn't let us even talk while eating, and you eat fast and you go to your thing. So it's a mindset. And then when it comes to Eretz Yisrael, it also depends who your heroes are in the Tanakh. We talked before the show, the Tanakh lives in my head a lot. And so like for me, Kalev ben Yefuneh, and those type of people, David HaMelech, they're very real. And so, I look to them as inspiration. Yeah, that's how you develop that toughness. There are very tough folks in Israel. They're really, really tough folks. Get out there, build a house in the middle of nowhere. I know them.
Right.
But I even know a nice, wealthy lady from Northern California who is like, I'm building a house here in Bat Ayin. And she just like, there's people like that. The Jews are tough.
Well, how do you balance the responsibility that you have, and you're probably subjected to actual real danger? Not probably, you are, with preserving the safety and security of your family and your kids. Like, how do you do that?
Well, look, some of it is practical steps. The windows are rock proof. You carry a pistol, you carry a gun. Those are basic things. You learn some stuff. Then, of course, you have emunah and faith. And then we have a mechanism called the State of Israel, which is supposed to provide security, which is to fight off the bad guys. Is it doing a great job doing it? The jury's out. So, some ways that we're doing an amazing job because Jews can live in Eretz Yisrael, only due to the fact that there's this army, b'siyata d'shmaya, with the help of God, but there's an army that defends you. Look, you may not walk right into a big Arab town, but at the same time, you can't let them bully you. And that's what they want to achieve. They want to bully us off our land. That's their whole thing. And we can't do that. That is the fight of this generation, is the fight for the land of Israel, for Eretz Yisrael. It's not a fight in every generation. 1,000 years ago, it might not have been a fight. There were always some people in Eretz Yisrael that held on. But the fight in this generation is for Eretz Yisrael, to hold on to this land, to push back on the bad guys. That's the thing. That's what we got to do. And so we're called to do it. And I'll tell you, I support, in different ways, the Jews that are out there in the front lines. Everybody talks about the soldiers. The soldiers are very in right now. But there are folks that are not soldiers. They're hilltop youth. They're kids, or they're folks that take a hilltop and make sure that it's ours and not theirs, and stop the takeover.
Right.